Hello, this is National Chess Master R. Rats continuing my video series on the correspondence team match between my video lessons group and the team CARPE DIEM. These games were played on board 70. Our man is Chester King 46 playing against James 2 Chess. Rating advantage about mid 1800s versus mid 1700s thereabouts. And let's have a look at the games. And here's a case. Our guy won both games, but White missed a tactical win right in the opening. And sometimes, I don't know if he saw it or not, hopefully he sees this video and he'll see it. But sometimes when you miss a win, your whole game falls apart. And it's kind of what happened here. We'll see what I mean when we get there. Okay, we have the Scandinavian defense. That's bad to try to hold on to the pawn. You can look that up on your own. Don't play it. Okay. So it avoids a lot of the theory where normally black is taking on d5 on the second move, and when the queen gets tempoed, parking it on a5, and it's a game of chess. That's what we have here. But in a moment, black is going to start getting a little too fancy with his knights, and it could have cost him. We will see. And now white's trying to grab space and bother the knights. And here's the point where black misfires. Correct is to bring this knight to d7, but black puts it on c4. And if white was paying attention, how many people are not taking their time in correspondence games? I mean, it's just self-evident throughout this whole match, the number of blunders we've seen, especially in the early phases when both games were finishing and I was making videos. Even some of the later videos, there might be one game that just dragged on after one game ended quickly, and so I'm making the videos as the player completes both games. That way, it's much easier to keep track of. But white to play just simply wins with a two-move tactic. Bishop takes, knight takes, pretty much force. We'll double check that in a moment, and queen check. And what does black do? The rules say you have to get out of check. There's not that many ways. Most logical would be bishop d7, I guess. And what does black have in compensation for the piece he's lost? The answer is he doesn't. So did black have to take? Can black do anything after bishop takes? Does taking this knight with check do any good? No. White just wins a piece. And instead he missed it, and he put his knight on d4. And now maybe sensing the danger that these knights are a little loose here, see f4 is threatened. Maybe that's White's idea. He's going to try to undermine the knight on f4 and then win the knight on c4. But he had the win of the knight on c4 last move. So black retreats his knight. And now, like I'm saying, sometimes when you miss a win, whether he saw it or not, your game tends to go downhill. And white thinks he has something here, and it almost looks like he does, but black gets creative and resourceful. b4. Now, that looks like it's going to try to send the knight back to c4, where you can play f4 and win a piece. So, again, I think this move was probably played quickly, but black has resources. It's amazing. Here it is, knight a c6, and that looks like it drops stuff, but it doesn't. Okay, if pawn takes, black has this resource, queen takes d4, and you answer with this and check. Wait a minute, no, this isn't working. You're dropping a piece. Okay, I missed something. I was thinking that was the idea when I first ran through these games. Let's see, pawn. Oh no, it's just simply knight takes, and although black is down a piece, he's going to get it back. Okay, if knight takes, bishop takes check. That's important. And when white gets out of check, you check again. And I suppose you could check one more time just so that white can't castle. And black's a pawn ahead. He has a double pawn, but black's a pawn ahead. Okay, so what else could white try here? Let's see. Pawn takes. Yeah, it's not queen takes d4. Knight takes c6. And you have knight b5, but I don't think that works. No, there's too many attackers on d4. Okay, takes, takes, and queen takes. And this is similar to what happens in the game, right? And we will see. So knight a5, b4, knight. Okay. What did white play? I think he did play. Yeah, he did play d takes c6. Okay. Yeah. Gotta look at the PGN off to the right. It gets so confusing when you play a line. Chess.com replaces a variation. I mean, the mainline variation with the variation you just analyze. So I guess he did take, and then black. Yeah, it's not queen takes d4. He did take with the knight. And then, yeah, that's exactly what happened. And now let's see. He didn't take on c6. He did play here. Yeah, so this did happen, I think. Look, yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, is exactly what I looked at. And now what's happened is black is still bagged a pawn. He doesn't have double pawns, but black's actually even ahead in development and has a threat on this rook. And suddenly, the fact that white's got these advanced pawns, not only are they kind of weak, but these diagonals pointing towards his rook are weak. And black just simply has the better game. And now the rook has to move. And black develops with tempo again, and the rook has to move again. And black gets castled. And there's all kinds of threats on that rook. That rook doesn't have a very good, it's not a very good position there. So black attacks it again. And white defends his pawn on a2, but now his rook's really misplaced. And now black breaks open the queenside pawns, and the game is turning quickly into black's favor. And now black's a clear pawn ahead. White has a pawn under direct pressure, an advanced pawn that he probably can't hold. Black has got a winning game. But I don't think black finished this off correctly. We'll see when we get there. Okay. So here's black 2 pawns up, and this should be a very, very routine win. And what he ends up doing is trading off both sets of bishops and going into a rook and pawn ending. It would be better to keep both bishops on the board as long as you can, because these bishops can help this pawn up the board. As I've shown in, for instance, the video I just made, there are a couple of bishops parked over on the side of the board. I think on this is white on b7 and I think on a7 and b7, and there was a passed b pawn for white just running right up the board that black couldn't stop. Or maybe they were, yeah, I think that's where they were. But anyway, the black bishops are powerful, and they should be able to help this pawn. So how do you go about doing something like this? Well, first step, put the bishop on b3. Now this pawn is getting ready to run right up the board. Okay, so white needs a defense. Okay, let's put the bishop on d2 so that it stops this pawn. Well, maybe we put the wrong bishop on. Maybe we need to put this bishop here first. Okay, let's try this way first. Now, white has to secure a4, but at least the pawn's getting to a5. And, we want to trade one bishop, but not both. We don't want to go into rook and pawn ending, as we will see. I'm just trying to find the best defense for white. Okay, it's black to move. We want this pawn to run. Let's go attack the rook. Wait, whose move is it? Oh, it's white's move. Okay, that's why it won't let me do it. Okay, let's activate the rook. Now let's see. To get this bishop out of there, we need to get a bishop to b5. So let's put the rook on b8. I suppose white could attack and maybe generate something on the back rank. Well, here you can safely play this, I think, because if bishop takes, the pawn is immune, and this should be a routine win for black. Just keep the bishops on the board. Don't trade them. That should be a routine win. But if white doesn't blockade that pawn, like I'm trying to show, that pawn's just going to run right up the board, and Anyway, let's see what black does select to do. He puts the rook on d8. And as I said, both bishops come off the board rather quickly. One is okay, but not both. So this is similar to what I was just analyzing, except black doesn't have the split pawns. But you've got this passed pawn. It's time to use it. A5. If rook A1, just put the rook on the 7th rank. And, try starting to run this pawn up the board. The king can come over to help. There's all kinds of good moves. But he's still okay. This could transpose. But here's where black goes wrong, I think, and makes the job a little harder. He should be pushing. Instead, he takes his rook off the 7th rank. And if you're going to be a pawn down in an endgame, you want it to be in a rook and pawn ending. Well, white's down 2 pawns. He's going to lose this, but this gives him the most chances because black could use his extra piece, and so black just starts advancing his pawns a little bit, brings his king into play. But maybe with a little bit of luck, white could try to liquidate a bunch of pawns and reach a drawing game. We'll look at a possibility here in a minute. Actually, this might be the turning point. It starts letting the black king get closer. I'll come back to that position and look at a possibility. And even though there's potential counterplay against these pawns, this pawn is becoming too strong. We'll look at that too. Oops, I'm hitting back button. And even though the king is cut off, that pawn is coming right up the board. And there's really no way to stop it. It's just a textbook win now. So white resigns. So let's back it up to where he let the king into king. Well, no, let's look at what he could have put his rook down on the 7th first. We did have his rook on the 7th. Let's go after some pawns, okay? Let's try this one. Okay. First, let's examine what happens if we just start giving up pawns. Now, how many can white afford to take? Well, that's easy to find out. You could take one because now he can't stop the pawn, right? Right? Okay, so time to get the rook back. Now, looks like black can build a bridge. What I mean by that is, I'll show you what a bridge is. If the rook ever checks, you block with the rook, and if you trade rooks, this pawn queens. So if black tries putting the rook, wait, let's see. If black tries putting the rook here, probably put its rook there. You can block it here. Now you get some nuisance checks. Now, how far do you want to deflect the king? Let's push him way back as far as we can. Now we'll come back here. Now we'll force this over, and now we can get the king closer. See, this is a little messy. I think black is still winning, but by the hair of his chinny chin chin. Maybe not that bad. The question is, how many pawns can white get off the board? Yeah, this should be winning for black. Okay, so I think black wins against that defense, but it took some work. Okay, and there's different ways to play it. It's just a first analysis. Let's see, what move was I saying? 37. Let's try get some pawns off. Instead of playing rook a4, well, let's see. No, we'll stick with rook a4, king e6, rook c4. I got the king cut off, king d6. Instead of rook a4 here, let's try g4. That eliminates some pawns. Okay, how's black going to respond? You can check. I suppose you could try this. That's probably reasonable, huh? Yeah. Let's not try g4. Let's try f4. Okay, f4. Now if g4, you see you got rid of a little bit here. This should still be in black's favor, but there's no reason to let the king come over and let let black prove it. I still think black's winning, but it's a little more effort. Okay, let's reset it, flip it, bring the other game in. And as I always ask when I do a second game, what move will it start it out at? It starts it out at move 8-9 this time. It rarely starts them out at move 1 where they belong. Okay, this game ends quickly. I have the 2-pawn attack of the Aliekans. I think there was another variation in this game just a few videos back where white sacrificed a pawn. I didn't find much book on it. But watch what black does. Guess what black does? Pawn to queen, rook 3. A6. What does this do? I just don't understand these moves. White's not planning to put his bishop on b5, and his knight certainly isn't going to get there. If white wants to chase the bishop, okay, let's develop a piece, okay? Let's castle, okay? Here, play a good move, castle. Now, I don't know if white wants to chase that bishop. Who knows what white's going to do? But now you can deal with it, okay? What's ironic is, as much as I'm criticizing these rook pawn moves, h6 would have saved black the game. And we'll see why. So anyway, he falls off with a6, giving white a tempo. There's not any book on this. It's an interesting pawn sacrifice. Saves the bishop, develops the knight, and transfers the defender over to the king side. And maybe here's the point of a6. Now I can play b5. Hooray. And it looks... Now here's white playing a rook pawn up. Oh well. Okay. Neither side... You did not need to move your rook pawns. Okay. And now white plays for an interesting complication. He wants to get an open f-file. And what should black do here? I think black's equalized. I'm not entirely certain white has enough compensation for the pawn he sacrificed. c5 looks like a good move, maybe. You got to watch f7 because this f-file is opened up. So black castles, and now we see why h6 might not have been would have been actually, although I'd have criticized it, would have saved black the game, because now comes the old stock bishop takes rook pawn sacrifice. Whoops, and black is defenseless. There's basically no defense to this discovered check. I couldn't find one, and if so I'll just show you what happens. The knight went there and discovered check, and black's losing his queen, so he resigned. But there's no defense. Queen e8 to get the queen off the diagonal just leads to this check, and here comes another check, right? And game over. So the irony of this thing, all these rook pawn pushes, a move I would have criticized would have saved black the game. Anyway, that's the game the two games in a nutshell. Well played by Chester King 46, although you were a little lucky in that first game, and then you could have tightened up and played a better ending. But James 2 Chess, you're moving too quick. That's the best I can say, and I hope I've cured you of moving your rook pawns. Okay, I hope I've cured all of you to watching these videos. I don't want to see people doing these anymore. That's my message. I mean, too many people are doing it. I mean, there's tens of thousands that I haven't reached yet, so we got to start a movement here. All right, thanks so much for your time. Take care.